I've been lucky to experience many once-in-a-lifetime moments, from all sorts of solar and lunar eclipses to seeing the aurora dance through the night sky to watching beautiful rare comets grace the heavens. But over the years, I have found that getting incredible shots of those moments has almost nothing at all to do with luck. So whether you're shooting an epic self-portrait, a solar eclipse, or just the moon setting over a beautiful mountain, stick around to learn the 3 things you must do to capture those once-in-a-lifetime shots. When it comes to once-in-a-lifetime photos, I'm not talking about those moments where you just rely on sheer dumb luck, like you show up and you see a weasel riding a woodpecker. No, I'm talking about photos where you have a vision for something that you want to see and you try to make it a reality. Now, of course, this could apply to all kinds of different sorts of photos, but specifically in this video, I'm gonna be talking about those moments where you have some rare astronomical event, whether it's an eclipse, the aurora, comet, or even just the full moon, and you take that thing and you line it up with something meaningful here on Earth. In order to get these kinds of photos, there are 3 things you have to do every single time, and I call those the 3 Ps. The 3 Ps. That is practice, preparation, and planning. So let's get into each one. With practice, what I mean is you have to learn your camera equipment. That's your camera, your tripod, any other extra gear that you're gonna be using to get these photos. You need to know it inside and out. This is something that a lot of photographers really ignore when it comes to taking good pictures. So let's for a minute think about musicians. Every time they pick up their instrument, they're not going to a performance, they're not going to give a concert. They're practicing, they're learning their skills, they're learning techniques, they're practicing different fingerings.
I'll do the fingering.
Or different ways of using their instrument to create music, so that when they actually get to the moment of the performance, everything has been streamlined, everything is easier, everything flows a little bit more effortlessly. So why we as photographers ignore this very critical activity, I have no idea. It seems like every time we take our camera out to the field to take pictures, the objective is I have to get a good shot. And it shouldn't be like this. The objective of your photo shoot doesn't have to be a photo. It can be practice. It can be an opportunity for you to refine your technique. You can go out with the objective of simply practicing depth of field, understanding how that plays with your focal length, with your focus point, with your aperture, and understanding how all of those things work together. You can go out with the express objective of just practicing compositions. Go out on a night when the light is crappy, when you're not distracted by trying to create an amazing photos, and just practice different kinds of compositions, whether that's near, far, or juxtaposition, telephoto, and just work through those various things so that when you actually get in the moment, when you need to perform with your camera, these amazing once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, everything is more effortless and streamlined, and your camera equipment is not getting in the way of you taking a shot. So if you're curious what the things you most need to understand are, I have a free ebook. These are 20 of the most common things that I have seen over the many years of teaching workshops, conferences, photo tours that I see people struggling with in the field. So we'll pop a link up to it there and down there. You can get that book totally for free. 20 skills and settings you need to master to really be fluid with your camera in the field. So that is P number 1. P number 2 is preparation. And here, what I'm talking about is something really simple: scouting and identifying lots of different subjects. I really cannot overstate the importance of having lots of subjects, and that's because you want to give yourself as many different opportunities as possible to align these amazing astronomical events up with whatever it is that's important to you. So when I'm thinking in terms of photographing the full moon, for example, it changes throughout the year where it sets. Sometimes it sets in the south and sometimes in the north. And so I'm always out looking for subjects that look good from the south or look good from the north, so that when the full moon rolls around, I know which subjects could potentially work for all the shots that I have in mind. And this goes for pretty much anything that you could possibly want to shoot. The aurora, for example, Here in California, I know that if the aurora does appear, it's gonna be in the north, right? And so I've gone out and I've looked around and I've found as many north-facing compositions as I possibly can in this area, so that when we get those big solar storms, I'm not left flat-footed going, how do I shoot? Because no, I've got that list of things. Oh, the aurora is strongest to the northwest right now. I know that's gonna be a perfect opportunity to shoot, say, in the Alabama hills. Or if it's really blowing up more to the east, that means I could maybe go to the Bristlecone Pines or Mono Lake, right? And I have these locations already scouted. Even when it comes to very singular moments, like this shot that I took of the eclipse, this annular solar eclipse in the UAE, what you don't see in this photo is all of the things I scouted that I didn't use. Well, first of all, I spent an hour in these sand dunes looking for just the right dune that would align. And I started with a bunch of different options so that I could narrow it down to the best possible choice when I calculated the exact moment of alignment for that particular eclipse. But on top of that, it wasn't just sand dunes that I looked at, and I also played with the alignments and I did the math and trigonometry to try to align the eclipse with things like the Burj Khalifa, or with the beautiful, beautiful mosque in Abu Dhabi. I had lots of possibilities. I even had falconer on standby so that if I couldn't get the camel in place, I could get a guy with a falcon on his arm up there, right? So just trying to give myself as many opportunities as possible. I really can't overstate that, how important it is to prepare. When you say prepare, it sort of sounds like a pot of soup on the stove in a low boil, right? But it's really, really important to prepare.
Hey there, this is Nick Stover, the founder of Nature Photography Collective, inviting you to join the collective itself. We have a library of over 100 nature speakers, an incredibly active community where you can interact with other photographers from around the world, and we add new talks, new speakers almost every week. Plus, you can be part of live Q&As, online editing clinics, and be notified before anyone else of new in-field workshops. You can get full details on our website, www.naturephotocollective.com, and you can use code SOCIALS10 to save 10% off your membership. Hope to see you there. Thanks so much.
Our last P, perhaps the most critical component of really getting those once-in-a-lifetime shots, is planning. And this is somewhere that a lot of photographers start to get lost. How do you actually plan and create these alignments and ensure that the angles are gonna work out? Well, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret right now. There's basically only one concept that you need to understand in order to be a good planner. And that idea is, if you know where the thing that you wanna photograph is in the sky at the moment that you want to photograph, then that solves most of your problems right there. So let me give you an example. I'll go back to the full moon. Say I want to photograph the March full moon at sunrise on the specific day of the full moon. That gives me the when. I know exactly when I want to shoot this phenomenon, but knowing that moment allows me to use some kind of a planning tool, and there are lots of them out there, right? You've got PhotoPills, that's the one that I use and I love, but there's lots of other ones as well. And these tools will tell you exactly where the moon is in the sky at that moment. Usually that location is designated with 2 angles. So you can tell where anything is in the sky if you know how far around the compass it is from north, as well as how far up into the sky it is. So that first angle, it's called azimuth. You start north at 0 degrees and then you work your way clockwise around the compass. So east is 90, south is 180, west is 270, and so on. And then elevation is the other angle, and then that's just how many degrees the thing is up in the sky. So for example, if I look at PhotoPills or one of these other apps, and it tells me that the March full moon is going to be at 262 degrees azimuth and 10 degrees elevation at the moment of sunrise, well, I know instantly that the moon is going to be most of the way, almost all the way to due west, and it's going to be, 10 degrees up from the horizon. So I know it's going to be in this very specific spot in the sky. And that is important because if I have a lot of different subjects, I can try to find one that best lines up with those same angles. And even better, because I'm mobile, I can actually move around to get the best subject in the best alignment. So I can use, again, one of those apps to say, hey, if I'm standing here, what's my angle to that mountain or that building or that camel? And how high up is that thing from me? So if I can get the angle between me and my subject to match the angle between me and the moon or the eclipse or the aurora or whatever, well, then I have great alignment between those two things, and they're gonna be in the same space, and I can take a picture of it, and it's gonna be friggin' sweet. Now, of course, there's a lot more to the actual planning, the accuracy, the precision, those sorts of things, but if you understand this simple concept, know where the thing you want to shoot is in the sky at the moment that you want to shoot it and line that up with something cool, well, that is how you get yourself to creating those once-in-a-lifetime photos. So these are the 3 things that I put into place every single time I am trying to create a shot like this. And if you can master these techniques, you're going to be well on your way to creating those once-in-a-lifetime photos for yourself. Let me know which of these 3 Ps is the most important for you, or the one that you most need to work on. Let me know down in the comments. I'd be really curious, and then I can make some more videos about that subject in the future. That's it for this video. I hope you all have a great time out there photographing. Until next time, have fun and happy shooting.